Hello my fellow gamers, and welcome once again to Perafilozof's Banished Let's Plays. You will probably remember the starvation that I had in the last episode. I had lost pretty much half my village down to starvation, which was caused by the lack of tools and the efficiency of the fishing docks. They failed to produce enough food, my food kept going down, and I ran out of food and I started getting starvation. Even though I was getting a few hundred food here and there, I had lost a lot of villagers down to starvation. As I watched the recording and I was editing it for YouTube, I think I have tracked down the reason why the domino effect of starvation is so strong in this game. And I would even be, well, I think I'm going to say that it's not so much down to the player himself. Now, how do I describe this effect? Well, as you start getting starvation, remember I was at 80 villagers, 80 adults, and I started getting starvation. Now, at that point, pretty much all of my housing was filled with, let's say, 2 adults and 1 child, or maybe even 2 children, and only a few homes maybe had only 1 old guy living there. Now, as the starvation hits, and a lot of homes end up with only 1 person living in them, I have around maybe 35 homes, and I'm down to 33 adults and 11 children, which means that pretty much every one of these homes has only 1 person living in there, and maybe a child, or maybe few people have a husband or wife that survived the starvation. Now the trick is that each and every one of these persons want to have food in their home, and they do not care how many people live in that home. They're going to bring food to fill the inventory that building, that home can keep for the food. So they're gonna keep trying to fill their home with as much food as they can for themselves, regardless of the fact whether they do have somebody living there with them or not. So they're gonna keep filling the maximum amount that that building can hold for food. So that is how you get that domino effect, destroying more and more of your village, even though they should be able to eat, because every person that lives in every home is going to stock his home with the maximum amount of food that that home will take. So you will end up with around, as I ended up, with around 35 homes that each want to fill themselves up to their maximum capacity, regardless of the fact that nobody can actually eat that much food in any short period of time. So they keep stacking their homes while other people cannot stack their homes, because the amount of food is divided for a large amount of housing in which only 1 person lives. So one person has a lot of food and he's gorging himself with food, while the other home is not going to be able to go and get any food, because this guy is filling his home totally to the max, regardless of the fact whether he can eat that or not in the next few years. So you end up, as I am ending up here, with only 100 food left in the storage barns, even though I have pretty much the entire village working on the food production. And so that was the failure of my city at about 15 years. I didn't get far and I already managed to blow it. Now, whether the entire cause of the food failure in my city was just because my village was just because of the tool shortage and their inefficiency at creating food is probably the case. I'm not entirely sure, because if you watched my previous video, I started off with 1000, maybe 1500 food extra, and at that point I already had 50 tools lacking, and as the video progressed I started having less and less food. The fisheries were producing less and less food, and I ended up with a lack of food and a starvation. So I'm not completely convinced that it was the tools, but rather some issue with the fishing docks. Even now, as I have increased their numbers, they're still producing very little amounts of fish. And it is something that is really bothering me. I don't have any miners, I don't have any stone cutters. I think I'm going to leave the teacher to try and educate these children to get some more productivity out of them when they become adults. The blacksmith is still necessary because I still don't have all the tools. A tailor is not really necessary anymore, and I can grab him from the job and send him off as a fisherman. I will increase these limits that I had dropped previously on the fisherman. But again, I'm not entirely sure what was the exact cause. I might load up the save a few times if I find the time to do it and see whether changing any elements would change the outcome. So the teacher is still in, a blacksmith is in, herbalist, no need, I do have some herbs. Foresters, I would need some foresters because I do not have enough firewood, so I would need to take a woodcutter to create more logs for that one woodcutter to create some more firewood. The hunters, I had reduced their limit because they weren't very efficient, but I need more hunters to create more food, but I just do not have any children coming of age because I'm keeping them at the school. Now I could free up a few adults by stopping the students from being educated. I'm not sure whether doing that will do much. I mean, my food, as you can see, is now going up. It's at 700, 800. So there are far less mouths to feed, much easier to gather food. And I do have almost all my villagers covered with tools, so the productivity should go back up. As I said, it's a pretty substantial setback, going from 80 villagers down to, from 80 adults down to 33. I guess I can bounce back if I keep playing. Now, was it playing at 5 speed that allowed me to make so many mistakes? It's probably true. It's probably true. I probably could have done better if I had played at 2x speed, but when I told you about my other village that I had made while I was on the weekend, I played that village at 5x speed, but then again I wasn't spending most of the time in the video talking with you and taking you through what I was doing as I was recording a let's play. So I don't know, I think I should try and keep playing at 5x speed and just get accustomed to it and just get better at simply playing the game instead of slowing the game down to 2x. So the villagers and their children are students. Now I'm trying to figure out how can I check exactly their age. I think this way, because if you cycle through the laborers, you can actually cycle through your children and students. So he's still a student at age 15, age 14, age 13, age 13. They all have very low happiness, probably because half the village died, and I do not even have a cemetery. Child at 8, child at 8, child at 8, child at 7. So this is probably why they spend so much time in the school instead of being adults, because they do not start going to school until the age of, well, which age? Age 10 probably. Age 10 students, age 8 child. So yeah, instead of becoming adults, they become students at 10, and they spend probably a decade at the school. We'll see just how long they spend at the school if we go and remember that Floriana is at 15 and still a student. We should keep track of her and see at what point does she become an adult and a worker instead of a student. So I would like it if it would possible for them to go to school at maybe age 5 and become adults at maybe age 12 or 13 instead of going to school at age 10 and becoming adults at who knows what age. So that might be a nice suggestion for the developer. So there I am with the problem of some old age. I have lost a few more villagers down to old age. That was my first generation that lived in these homes here, and I also have one, well, just one, Bronzo, and I think he just died or maybe moved in somewhere else. Yeah, he moved somewhere else, but Bronzo is my last villager of the really first generation of this village. The food is now easy to produce when almost everybody works at food production. I can look at these fisheries. They are getting better at production, but I have just noticed I am running out of iron and I still am not producing tools. So I'm going to have to get myself some miners, but where do I take them from? Well, the fisheries, I suppose. Not really any other spot to take them away from. Maybe switch a fisherman for a hunter. And I am down 3 gatherers, so 3 fishermen down, 3 gatherers up. Because I'm definitely sure that the gatherers are going to get me more food than the fishermen will. As I said, losing so many villagers is going to slow down the development of this village a lot. I had wanted to build a market here, but as I cannot build anything right now, as I don't have anybody either to build or to collect resources, and why did I turn this off? I can't really do much about the marketplace. Down to 30, died of old age. Bronzo was the one who died of old age, so that is it of my first generation. So not only did my first generation die, and that was about 10 or maybe even more villagers, but also I lost probably 40 villagers or more if I count the children to starvation. Well, it's gonna be a bit harder to develop now. All my jobs are either totally stopped or at least a few people are working. The food production is the most important one, but I am running out of firewood, and if I don't want my villagers to freeze to death, I'm going to have to pull more fishermen off their duties and get some more foresters to get some more woodcutters to make sure that they're going to manage to create enough firewood to keep them healthy. Now, my Florena seems to have become a teacher at 17, so it would seem that they go to school from the age of 10 to the age of 17. So that's 7 years that they spend at this school. So I told you in the previous video, somebody wrote that they might stay in school up to 22, so not that far. It's 17 that they graduate from the school. So that's 7 years that they spend in the school. Now, just how much more productive do they become by going to the school? That isn't something I was able to find. Maybe I could find it if I looked at the help. Where does it say? Aha, here we go. Educated citizens will produce more resources in any profession that they may be assigned to. So, just more resources. They will be more efficient at their jobs if they're educated. Doesn't really say by how much. So, I guess that if they have to spend 7 years instead of being adults as students, and they live for another 50 years, I guess it should pay out. Although I'm not sure how much this is going to pay out for me at the moment, because I just don't have enough villagers to do all the jobs. I'm trying to feed almost 50 villagers with just 20 food producers, and most of them are not educated. I mean, I do have the food, maybe I have too much food, but I definitely don't have the firewood. So the fishermen will have to suffer some more cutbacks, and the woodcutter and the forester have to go up. The tools of the blacksmith needs more iron, which is very slow to be produced at the mine. Well, I could turn them into laborers instead of miners and go in search of any iron, but even if I were to collect this iron here, it would just end up on a stockpile here, and for a blacksmith to get that iron, that would mean a very long walk. So getting the iron exactly right next to the blacksmith is kind of a better idea. So yeah, it is definitely going to take a long time to come back from this. Food, I am producing a lot of food, I might as well come back a little bit. I think I want to cut back on the fishermen but increase the hunters so that I can get more leather. And I will need to start producing coats again. Tailor, here we go. Okay, where's the issue? Oh right, not enough workers to become a tailor. My happiness is very low. Well, they didn't have food, then they died a lot, then they didn't have firewood, so it's understandable that they will be very unhappy. Now, I'm not sure what's the end result of happiness and what should be the opposite. Unhappiness? Happiness. Happiness affects productivity. An unhappy population will idle frequently, decreasing the overall production. Some structures increase happiness, such as markets, wealth, taverns, training posts, cemeteries, and chapels. And the industrial structures as mines and quarries will decrease the happiness. Births and marriages increase happiness, while deaths, sickness, starvation, and freezing will decrease it. So the vicious cycle of the domino effect, if that's even a thing, continues to destroy me. So not only did I manage to lose a lot of villagers, but because the surviving ones witness their deaths, I'm going to have less happiness in my village, and with less happiness and more of them being unhappy, they're going to work less and idle more frequently, which means that by being unhappy, they're also destroying their own lives even further. Well, look, I must say you made quite a game. I am now speechless because I just realized just how badly I failed, and I am not afraid of saying that out loud. Yep, I failed miserably. Well, it was only my first village, so a lot of lessons have been learned. For example, I should keep these two offline and these can be online. Although I don't have enough fishermen, not even to keep them online. It might not have been the best idea to keep them being educated when I am already at a desperate need for more workers. But I'm already at this bad of a situation. Going with more educated kids is not gonna make this problem much worse than it already is. I might as well cut back on all the fishermen and just concentrate on some logs and getting firewood. The tool situation is once again getting worse because the miners just can't get the iron fast enough. I don't know, I think that the speed at which they create iron is a bit too low. It should be balanced a bit better. The mines and the quarries should produce a bit more. They don't have to have more in stock. They should run out at the same after the same amount has been taken from the ground, but they should at least be a little bit faster at getting that, because you are spending 15 workers to work in these two buildings. Per each building 15 workers, and they only bring in very small amounts of iron and stone. So no fishing, just gathering and hunting. A tailor probably has no job, probably not enough leather. The blacksmith cannot seem to build tools because they don't have enough iron. Well, I might as well then drop down some gatherers, get some more miners. If I end up losing them and they die in a cave-in or something, that's gonna be a tragedy considering how few adults I have been left with after that famine or starvation, whatever you wanna call it. Now, producing logs here might not be the best idea. Because my woodcutters are here and here, I should produce logs at a closer spot so that the logs can be taken to the woodcutters faster. Finally somebody came of age, or should I say finished their education, and I'm gonna have to send them to the mine. Because once again, the tools are my main problem. And you probably noticed how much this video is slower than the previous ones, because there are so fewer villagers here that everything has slowed down. I'm not building anything, I'm just trying to slowly get back into the game. I do have a lot of food, but the tools are still the problem, so instead of getting more gatherers, I can have more miners. I might as well speed up the simulation up to 10, because at this point I'm just crawling along. I do have still this issue where I have managed to fail to build any homes here. So anybody who works here has to come from very far away. Then at that note, I might as well stop this from working and not have anybody work down here, so that they do not have to spend so much time going all the way there, and I can increase or just let them work over here. How many gatherers is that? 8 gatherers, and that is it. So yeah, not to waste their time to be producing and building over here, gathering, when there is no point in going so far away and there are no homes close by. The food has gone down a little bit because I have taken up so many villagers from the food creation and sent them to work at the mine to finally manage to get the tool situation under control. But I'm now at 18 tools missing. That's even more than previously. I had a forester without a job, sent him to work as a miner. Reserve of tools and firewood and logs is low. Yes, I know. Foresters are maxed out and the woodcutters are maxed out, so there isn't much I can do about that. Although the limit on the foresters can be increased to 4. So if I manage to free up workers or get more students to finish school, I can get those 2 foresters. Herbalist, for some whatever reason, nobody is using up any herbs. I'm still at 100. I do not need anybody to become a herbalist, and considering I don't really have any villagers free, that's a blessing. Here finally has become an adult. This really should say has finished education, but I guess they are considered children as long as they are being educated. Okay, 2 now freed up. Let's send them to work as the foresters. And you can probably notice that I have a shortage of firewood even though I have so few villagers. Well, it's not the villagers that create the shortage of firewood, it's the housing that creates the shortage of firewood. Because I have so many houses that need firewood and I have so few villagers to create logs and cut them to wood. I have such a big lack of firewood because all these homes have to be supplied with firewood regardless of the fact whether there is just one person living in it or several. And that was the same problem with the food. No matter how many people live in those homes, they have to fill them up with food, whether they can eat that much or not, and they do not care that they are not leaving any food for the other villagers. At 35 adults, so a little better than as we started this video. 36 now. I have a free laborer. Where do I send him? Where the tool situation is getting better, so with one blacksmith. Didn't I have two? No, once again I have only one. Well, it's okay, it seems to be managing to fix the situation with tools. I have only 6 tools missing now. But I still don't have firewood. Well, it's a bit better than before with the firewood. Oh, I do have a laborer and I do have a few people that are standing around not doing anything because as a tailor, for example, so I might as well cut down some of these trees that have regrown in the neighborhood. That should get me some more firewood as these guys cut those logs. Where do I put the next laborer when I get him? Well, the food is now going down again, so definitely increase the number of fishermen, for example. Put them in here. Get some more food going. Well, I'm playing at 10x speed and this is still crawling along. This just goes to show how bad can you end up if you have a starvation. And I was lucky to even manage to stabilize it. 50% of my villagers, I could have lost even more. Again, low on firewood. Yeah, just too many homes and too few adults. That's creating the biggest problem right now. The tool situation has finally been fixed, so I can reduce the number of miners now. Get some more fishermen, for example, in here. No, I do not want you working anywhere else. Stop working, stop working, stop working, stop working. Just let these two fishermen start working. Can probably reduce the number of miners a bit more now. Get some more fishermen. Leave that one laborer to go around cutting down these trees that I have marked for cutting down. Although they seem to be very fast, they already managed to cut down more than a few of them. This whole part here of the village has been turned off as I'm struggling to get the number of villagers up. Well, I think we've managed to fix almost all the problems except the firewood, which is a problem that cannot be fixed until I have more workers, more adults. And that would be all for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.